the mind map, the random topic algorithm I use to select what I talk about in my next video, doesn't seem to be too fond of Gundam. Every time it comes up, it's always a sequel to a very well-liked and critically acclaimed season. But unlike the last Gundam video I made, Endless Waltz, Gundam Seed Destiny is rather infamous.
Better alive, you're coming with me.
ZX Spider-Man Commodore 128 and 64. I hit the floor, I hit the shore. Got game skills from days of yore. I close the deck, computer rolls, playing till my hands are sore.
Welcome to Beef Snake Nerdcast. I'm Captain Bolter. Gundam Seed Destiny is the second entry in the Cosmic Era segment of the Gundam multiverse. Created as a follow-up to the popular Gundam Seed, it runs 50 episodes and hit North American airwaves in 2007, 3 years after it premiered in Japan. The plot goes a little something like this. It is the year 37 of the Cosmic Era. 2 years of peace have been achieved between the Earth Alliance and the space colonies of Zaft. However, the scars of the bitter war are still fresh in the hearts and minds of many. One such individual is Shin Asuka, a young coordinator, a genetically enhanced human, from the independent nation of Orb. Shin lost his entire family while trying to flee the island nation during the last war. This trauma has left him incredibly angry at the Earth Alliance for their discrimination against coordinators, and at Orb for not being able to protect its own citizens. Over the last 2 years, Shin has enlisted in the Zaft military and climbed the ranks to become an elite redcoat, piloting the ZGMF X-56S Impulse Gundam aboard the LHM BB-01 Minerva, Zaft's new cutting-edge battleship. Shin's training is put to the test when a Black Ops team of Earth Alliance forces, codenamed Phantom Pain, break into a top-secret Zaft armory and make off with 3 top-of-the-line Gundams. Their leader, a mysterious masked individual named Neo Roanoke. Meanwhile, the young leader of the nation of Orb, Kigali Eula Atha, has her hands full rebuilding the infrastructure and the faith of her citizens after the last war. Helping her is her chief of security, ex-Zaft redcoat, Athrin Zala. Unfortunately for both of them, it is not as simple as cutting ribbons and shaking hands. The actions of Phantom Pain quickly devolve into an international incident, dragging Orb back into conflict, and straining the relationships between Athrin's Zaft ties and Kigali's hope to keep Orb neutral. Athrin eventually makes the decision to return to the Zaft military, being immediately reinstated as a redcoat with the blessings of Zaft's new chairman, Gilbert Durandal, who insists the last thing he wants is another devastating war. He even sponsored the message of peace. The famed pop star and hero of the last war, Lacus Klein? Something is off here, though. Lacus is dressed completely differently, sings in a completely different style, and to top it all off, is still acting like her and Athrin are still engaged, something they broke off years ago. Her message is also a lot less prevent a war and far more support our troops. In fact, the last time we saw Lacus at all, she was romantically involved with Kira Yamato, Athrin's best friend and key figures in the events of the last war, a figure who has been missing since the end of the last Alliance plant war 2 years ago. So, where is Kira? All these mysteries, inconsistencies, and political cloak and dagger maneuvers would inevitably lead to the second Alliance plant war. And that's how the show starts. So, this is Gundam. War is a given, but I want to examine why, in the Cosmic Era, the war flared up again. What are the causes? What are the motivations for both sides? For the Earth Alliance, the motivation is simple. Prejudice. This is ultimately what caused the First War. The genetic augmentations being pioneered at the time led to designer babies, peerless athletes, and masterful intellectual pursuits. These coordinators, as they became known, started outpacing naturally born humans, or naturals, at just about everything. And the naturals responded violently. For Zaft, the reason to commit to war started as survival. but eventually spiraled into revenge, and from there into smug superiority. They are, after all, a nation of genetically enhanced supermen. What started as a war of self-defense turned into one of domination. This fear and hatred did not disappear after just 2 years of peace. In fact, the horrors of war committed by both sides are why neither side can let it go. If this sounds familiar, don't worry, I'll talk about that. In true Gundam fashion, no one side is altruistic. Villains and heroes are present on both sides. This leads to a lot of traumatized teenagers trying to kill each other with giant robots more than anything else. And again, this is happening on both sides. For example, the Special Ops group, Phantom Pain, has a trio of teenagers who are their specialists. Their names are Stella, Aul, and Sting, and they are extended naturals. What is an extended natural? Well, the Earth Alliance really does not like pre-birth genetic tinkering. They started 2 wars over it, after all. But coordinators are just better at multiple tasks and learning new skills. On top of that, they have a more robust immune system and a metabolism that is better than most naturals, if not all naturals. This obviously would make them more dangerous in places like a combat situation. So how did 3 teenagers steal top-of-the-line Gundams from Zaft? Well, there's that term I used, extended natural. To put it basically, they're sci-fi super soldiers. Through a combination of cybernetic implants, emotional conditioning, psychological programming, combat stimulants, memory manipulation, physical training, and even child abduction, the Earth Alliance creates pilots that can stand toe-to-toe with coordinators and win. It seems the Earth Alliance doesn't want people meddling with children until after they're born. The reason why we don't see more extended naturals on the field is because they are very mentally unstable. Take the Phantom Pain trio, for example. When they are not asleep in their cradles and getting their memories altered or erased, they are very regressed as individuals. Sting is a mean-spirited bully who contradicts everyone around him. Owl is constantly cheery to the point of being manic, and it's really unsettling in combat scenarios. And Stella is concerningly childlike. Neo Roanoke pulls double duty as both their commander and their handler, and is the only person the 3 are really willing to listen to. On the other side of this conflict, we have examples like Shin Asuka. It's a wonder Shin got anywhere in Zaft military. He is an exceptional pilot, but saying he has an attitude problem is like saying the Earth has some water on it. He's not horrible to everyone around him, but he has so much general disdain born from pain that it makes him unpleasant and easily manipulated. His partners are the gung-ho Lunamaria Hawk, who has more guns than sense, and Ray Zabarel, a very effective but cold-shouldered loner type who barely interacts with anyone around him. All of whom must have been impacted by the war that was only 2 years ago. Alright, the wrap-up stops here. If you do want to actually watch the series and not get spoiled, you might want to switch to another video because I'm about to spoil the hell out of it with honest criticism. Now, I try to keep a positive lens on when I talk about any given topic, but I am mortal, and I have my likes and dislikes like everyone else. And Gundam Seed Destiny is a season I take issue with. That's not exactly a hot take, but here's why. The Cosmic Era timeline was headed by a husband and wife director-writer team, and it feels like after the success of Gundam Seed, they just went hard into what they wanted, and it led to hard retcons and weird late-game choices that were just frustrating. Like Gundam Seed before it, many of the story beats can be mapped back to the Universal Century timeline, the original Gundam series. In this case, Zeta Gundam. This was a bold move, as Zeta Gundam is held up as one of the best Gundam seasons ever. And I don't think it paid off. Compromising what made the Cosmic Era interesting in the first place, with something that was done way better. The handling of the main characters is another issue. It was just done badly. For example, Athrin Zala. His story arc is just a redo of what he got up to in the last season, but not as well done. He's just spinning his wheels until he gets told what to believe in and then goes along with it. Contrast this to the drive and dedication he had last season, it just comes off as directionless. Then there's Shin Asuka, a character billed as the protagonist of the entire show. Being equal parts brilliant pilot and broken young man is something we've seen before from previous Gundam entries like Hiro Yui. This, however, goes up in smoke when his rage and gullibility become defining qualities, sticking him firmly in the role of villainous goon, along with the entire crew of the Minerva, the ship we were supposed to be following for this one. They got done so dirty. Now I already hear you asking, Bolter, if the focus characters are not the protagonists, then who is? Why, Kira Yamato, of course. Half of you just groaned, the other half have no idea who I'm talking about. Kira Yamato was the protagonist of Gundam Seed. In that show, he was a lost young man, dragged into conflict, finding his way, and eventually discovering his convictions and ending the war. So what does he do when he barges into Seed Destiny? He sticks to his convictions and ends the war. Not questions. Sticks to. If that sounds like a narrative decline, you're right, it is. And it sort of deflates the key tradition of Gundam, the radicalization of victory. Traditionally, in any long-running Gundam season, if one side wins, they tend to be the villain next time, their victory in a war emboldening them to take what they want and acting out of either a power trip or revenge. The problem with that is the winning side last season was Kira. Long story, but basically the villains of last season directly came out of Zaft. Earth Alliance wasn't much better, but the good guy faction was whoever sided with Kira. So basically, the villains of this season are anyone who isn't Kira, and Kira shows up halfway through the season to win. Guys. And these are just the bigger narrative problems with the Cosmic Era. I'm not going to get into every little nitpick about resurrected characters, wasted characters, idealized teenagers, or recycled mobile suit designs. And stock footage. My lord, the stock footage. If I did, I'd be here all day. To swing things back to a more positive note, it does go out of its way to counter the message of Gundam Seed. The message of Gundam Seed is the circumstances of your birth don't define you, with the straight argument going the opposite way in Seed Destiny, which is genetic determinism. If you are born better than others, aren't you destined to rule? Really complex questions that were being discussed in Seed and explored here, and they don't do a bad job of it. Now, part of what might have been leading to these issues with the series might have just come down to the people running the show. Quite literally. The writer/director duo of this show, Chiaki Murosawa and Mitsuo Fukuda, were married. It's been said that they might have been in a rough patch in their relationship while making Seed Destiny. Different ideas on where the story should be going, disagreements on characterization, and budgetary issues were mentioned by staff, pulling the season into rough waters. Now, this is all hearsay. I couldn't find any direct sources saying this is actually fact. The only information I was able to find is that, unfortunately, Mitsuo Fukuda passed away in 2016. Now, if you like Seed Destiny or think the Cosmic Era is the best timeline of Gundam, more power to you. I honestly loved elements of the Cosmic Era to this day. I'm still passionate about the timeline, obviously, because I'm ranting about it so hard. And I'm glad we get to see more of it in the newly released Gundam Seed Freedom. The unfortunate part is, Gundam Seed Destiny just really disappointed me as a fan. One thing is for sure, though. I'm going to have to expand the Gundam section in the mind map. I sure have a lot more to say about Gundam. The characters, the suits, the factions. And this includes the Cosmic Era. So I'll be back to ramble about this timeline and why it makes me kind of upset sometimes. Thank you for tuning into Beef Snake Nerdcast. I've been your captain, Bolter. If you like what I do here, consider liking, subscribing, and donating to my new Patreon below. If I hit 500 subscribers before the new year, I'll get drunk and talk about a voted topic. Why not? Thank you, and I'll see you on the battlefield.